There are moments in life when your silence becomes your resistance, and your resistance becomes your voice. You have been told that to be strong, you must shout louder. That to defend yourself, you must always respond. That to prove your worth, you must explain yourself to people who never cared to understand you in the first place. But I have come to tell you, there is power in not reacting. This world will provoke you. It will misjudge you, mock you, drag your name through the dust and wait for your rage. Because they know if they can steal your reaction, they can hijack your direction. But when you don't respond, when you refuse to lower your voice to their noise, you rise. I am not speaking to the weak in spirit today. I am speaking to the one who's tired of fighting battles that lead to nowhere. I am speaking to the one who knows they have something greater inside, but feels they are being drained by things that don't deserve their energy. I am here to tell you, your silence is not your defeat. It is your discipline. We were not born to bark back at every dog that barks at us. Lions never explain their silence in the jungle. They are feared not because they roar often, but because when they move, they dominate without noise. The war you are fighting is not just outside you, it is within, and the battlefield is your reaction. Will you rise to every insult? Will you fall for every emotional trap? Or will you walk past it like a king who knows his crown cannot be touched by dust? Listen closely, because what I am about to say is not just a message, it is a mirror. A mirror that will show you who you are and who you were meant to become, if only you choose silence over ego, purpose over pride, and destiny over distraction. If you have ever been misunderstood, if you have ever been attacked for standing alone, if you have ever held your tongue while your spirit burned with truth, then this message is for you. This is not a speech, this is a declaration. That from today forward, your silence will speak louder than 1,000 words. Your peace will become your protest, and your discipline will bring you the kind of victory no voice can describe. Stay with me. Because what you're about to hear is not noise, it is the strategy of the unshakable, the strength of the silent, and the way of those who win without saying a word. They don't understand that silence is not weakness. They mistake your stillness for surrender, your lack of reaction for defeat. But the wise know better. The wise know that silence is the oldest weapon of the righteous. It is the shield of those who walk with clarity, because sometimes the loudest voice in the room is not the strongest, it is the most wounded. The ones who truly hold power do not need to announce it. They do not fight every noise with noise. They watch, they discern, they wait. And in the waiting, their silence gathers the force of a storm. You see, we live in a world addicted to reaction. Social media thrives on who claps back the fastest. In the streets, reputation is measured by how quickly you defend your pride. But what if I told you, real power is in restraint? Real authority is in the ability to absorb the blow and still not move off your throne. Real power is in knowing you can speak, but choosing not to. It is not because you are afraid. No, it is because you understand the value of your words. And you will not waste them on people who have not earned your truth. They attacked you because they wanted you to fall to their level. They provoked you because they feared your discipline. They wanted you to speak so they could twist your words. But you said nothing. You stayed silent, not because you didn't feel it, but because you refused to let the fire inside you be reduced to noise. That silence was not empty. It was loaded with wisdom. It was loaded with strategy. It was loaded with self-respect. And those who thought you were quiet because you had no answer didn't realize your silence was the answer. You don't need to explain your soul to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. You don't need to justify your path to those who've never walked through your storm. When you understand who you are, you stop auditioning for people's validation. You stop reacting to every whisper. You stop trying to prove yourself in every room. Because now you know your presence is louder than their accusations. Your character is your defense. And your silence? That's the voice of someone who doesn't chase approval because they carry purpose. Let them talk. Let them lie. Let them throw stones. You have no business throwing them back. That's not your battlefield. Their noise cannot break what God has built in silence. And you didn't come this far to be distracted by echoes. You came to build, to rise, to conquer. The real war is not between you and them. The real war is between your spirit and your pride. Every time you choose not to react, you win a war the world never sees. Even when they mocked the prophets did not react. When they spat at kings, true kings did not defend their crowns with words. They did it with legacy. And that's what you're building, a legacy. Not a moment, not a post, not a reaction. A legacy that cannot be undone by gossip or defeated by slander. That's why you must learn to value your silence like gold, because not everyone deserves a response. Not every insult requires your energy, and not every challenge is worth the weight of your peace. There is a strength rising in you now. It doesn't roar, it whispers. It doesn't scream. It stands. That strength has no need to convince, no need to shout. It simply is. Like a mountain unmoved by wind, like a flame that refuses to flicker in a storm. That is what your silence is becoming. A declaration without noise, a weapon without sound, a power that breaks their expectation. So don't rush to speak, don't rush to correct, don't rush to prove. Time will, truth will, fruit will. You don't need to fight every battle, you just need to win the war within. And the one who can master silence has already mastered destiny. Let them wonder what you're thinking. Let them grow restless with your calm. Because in the end, it will be your silence that echoes longer than their voices. There is no battlefield more dangerous than the one inside your own mind. No enemy more subtle than your own emotions. And no war more vital than the war to master yourself. Many people fail in life, not because they lack talent, not because they lacked opportunities, but because they reacted without restraint. Their emotions became their master and their decisions became the casualties. But the one who learns to govern their emotions walks with a different kind of power, a silent power, a steady power, a power that doesn't need to shout because it cannot be shaken. The world we live in is designed to provoke you. They poke your pride, test your patience, and press your wounds just to see if you'll break character. They know that if they can get you to react, they can get you to move on impulse, not wisdom. They can make you speak before thinking, move before planning, destroy before building. That's why mastering your emotions is not just personal growth. It is survival. It is the difference between kings who rise and warriors who fall. When you don't control your emotions, someone else will. They will manipulate your anger, stir your jealousy, feed your fear, and push you into storms you were never meant to enter. And in the end, you will wonder how you lost your peace, your focus, your discipline. But when you master your emotions, when you become still in chaos, calm in pressure, silent in provocation, you become untouchable. You become the kind of person they can't predict, can't provoke, and cannot move. Some of the most powerful moments in your life will not be when you speak, but when you choose not to. When everything in you wants to retaliate, and yet you breathe. When your pride demands a response, but your purpose tells you to walk away. When your heart is bleeding, but your spirit says, stand still. Don't let them see your crown drop. That's mastery. That's royalty. That's power that doesn't beg to be noticed, because it knows its value. Emotions are like waves. If you don't learn how to stand while they crash, they will pull you under, and you will drown in moments that were meant to pass. The insult was not the danger. The delay was not the defeat. The betrayal was not the end. But how you responded to it, that was where your fate was decided. You don't win by reacting to pain, you win by rising above it. By using it as fire, not as poison. By refusing to let your enemy dictate your behavior. Think about the strongest people you've known. Were they loud? Were they reckless? No, they were still. Disciplined, hard to read. They didn't need to threaten, didn't need to scream. Their silence said enough. Their restraint made the loud ones nervous. Because deep down everyone knows, it's easy to explode. But to remain composed, that's power. That's control, and control is the throne upon which leaders sit. Don't be moved by every feeling that passes through you. You are not your anger. You are not your fear. You are not your pain. These are visitors. Don't give them citizenship. Learn to observe your emotions without becoming a slave to them. Say to yourself, this pain is real, but it will not decide my next step. This anger is loud, but it will not touch my integrity. This frustration is heavy, but it will not shake my foundation. The one who reacts in emotion may win the argument, but lose their peace. May silence the room, but destroy their legacy. You were not made to be emotionally impulsive. You were made to be emotionally intelligent. That means knowing how to feel without letting the feeling own you. Knowing how to cry and still lead. Knowing how to be provoked and still stay above the noise. That's not weakness. That's unshakable authority. Sometimes the most revolutionary act is simply not reacting. Not because you didn't notice, but because you noticed everything and still chose peace. You saw the trap, you saw the disrespect, you felt the tension, but you walked on. Because you had bigger battles to win and no time to waste on shadows. And those who once tested your silence will be silenced by your growth. Those who once mocked your stillness will tremble at your elevation. Because when you master yourself, you master the direction of your life. And there is no force greater than a man or woman who refuses to be controlled from the outside in. If you want to go higher, you must go deeper into yourself, into your discipline, into your self-awareness. Because the one who conquers their emotions has already conquered the world. There is something most people don't understand. Not everything requires your attention. Not every attack deserves your retaliation. Not every argument is worthy of your reply, and not every battle is meant to be fought. In fact, many battles are traps in disguise. Distractions wearing the mask of importance. Noise designed to pull you off the path, drain your energy, and keep you stuck in a cycle of proving yourself to people who don't even matter. But when you grow in wisdom, you begin to see clearly. What you ignore, you defeat. You see, some things only survive because you keep feeding them. That rumor that keeps spreading, it feeds on your reactions. That enemy who keeps throwing shade, they feed on your attention. That drama that keeps returning, it feeds on your time. If you would stop responding, stop explaining, stop fueling the fire, they would burn themselves out. But the moment you engage, the moment you respond with emotion, you give it life. You keep it alive. And sometimes your greatest victory is in your refusal to respond. When you choose silence, when you choose to rise instead of react, you strip the enemy of power. You confuse the ones who tried to provoke you, because they don't know what to do with someone they cannot move. They're used to noise. They're used to noise. They're used to chaos. But when you become still, unbothered, focused, unmoved, they are exposed. Their plans fall apart. Because your peace is your protection. Your focus is your weapon. And your refusal to be distracted is what makes you dangerous. Ask yourself, how much time have you lost reacting to things that don't build you? How much peace have you surrendered chasing rumors, responding to critics, defending your name? All of that energy could have gone into building something powerful, but instead it was wasted on shadow, on echoes. On enemies who only had power because you gave it to them. But now is the time to withdraw your energy. Now is the time to stop feeding what was sent to destroy your focus. There are people who will poke at your dignity just to steal your reaction. They want your voice not because they value it, but because they want to control it. They want your attention, not because they respect you, but because they want to distract you. But when you walk past them, not in fear, but in clarity, you starve them. You make them irrelevant. And that is worse than revenge, because your absence is louder than your reaction. And your silence cuts deeper than your words ever could. You must learn to be selective with your energy. Protect it like gold. Spend it only where it grows you, not where it drains you. Not every invitation to battle is a call from heaven. Some are tests to see if you will waste your weapons on meaningless wars. Don't fall for it. Not this time. There is too much inside of you, too much ahead of you, to be detoured by distractions that disguise themselves as enemies. Even the eagle doesn't respond to every sound. It doesn't flap its wings for every storm. It flies higher, above the noise, above the clouds, above the fight. That's what you must do. Fly higher, rise above. Ignore what was sent to break you, because what you ignore, you weaken. And what you weaken eventually disappears. The enemy doesn't need to destroy you if they can distract you. They don't need to silence you if they can get you arguing with fools. They don't need to stop your purpose if they can keep you tangled in petty wars. But when you stop responding, when you stop feeding what drains you, you become untouchable. They can't trap what doesn't engage, they can't delay what doesn't detour, and they can't defeat what keeps rising. The next time they talk about you, let them. The next time they lie on your name, don't flinch. The next time they bait you into a reaction, smile and walk on, because your energy is reserved for purpose now. You don't wrestle pigs when you've been called to walk with kings. You don't clap back when your hands are building empires. You don't descend when you've been commanded to rise. This discipline, this ability to ignore, to detach, to walk away, is not coldness. It's clarity. It's strength. It's knowing who you are, where you're going, and what's not worth your voice. And the moment you stop feeding what was sent to destroy you, it begins to die. And that is how you win. Without saying a word, there will come a time in your journey when you will realize that words are not enough, that talking will not open doors, that explaining yourself will not change minds, that shouting will not bring you peace. And in that moment, you must choose a higher path, the path where your results speak louder than your voice ever could. Because in the end, it is not what you say that convinces the world, it is what you become. Too many waste their strength trying to be understood, trying to correct every false narrative, trying to defend their value with paragraphs and arguments. But listen to me, you don't prove your worth by reacting, you prove it by rising. And when you rise, when your life begins to reflect discipline, when your hands start building and your actions start bearing fruit, even your enemies will be forced into silence. Because truth, when lived, becomes undeniable. Let them say you're finished. Let them say you're nothing. Let them say you'll never make it. That's just noise. And your job is not to respond to noise. Your job is to walk in purpose. Because the real answer is not in what you say back. It's in what you build next. That business, that healing, that breakthrough, that growth. That is your defense. That is your clapback. Not in anger, but in elevation. You must understand, there's a moment where silence becomes your seed, where restraint becomes your strategy, and where endurance becomes your statement. When you stop arguing with people who are not on your level, you start building something that makes them irrelevant. It takes strength to do that. Strength to be misunderstood and still stay focused. Strength to be insulted and still stay planted. Strength to be overlooked and still keep growing. They said you were done, but your next move is about to show them you were just getting started. They said you had no future, but your consistency is about to prophesy without words. You don't need to scream to be seen. You don't need to fight to be known. The fruit of your work will do what your voice never could. It will silence the critics. It will shame the doubters. It will prove that the one who remains calm in the storm becomes the storm. You have to let your transformation be your testimony. Let your self-control be your strength. Let your growth be your vengeance. Because a man or woman who chooses to focus on their purpose instead of their pride becomes a force that no one can stop. You don't waste time trying to correct people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You just keep building and let the finished product do the talking. And, you see, the loudest people often have the least to show. But the ones who walk in true power don't have to announce it. Their results speak for them. Their discipline speaks for them. Their peace, their consistency, their character, it all becomes their language. And in a world full of noise, that language is what sets them apart. Because you can argue with a man's words, but you cannot argue with his fruit. So let the world watch. Let them underestimate you. Let them sit back and assume that your silence means defeat. They won't understand the roots you've been growing beneath the surface. They won't see the foundation you've been building in the dark. But when the harvest comes, when the light hits what you've been faithfully working on in silence, then they'll understand why you didn't need to respond. Because results don't explain, they just exist. And when they appear, they remove all doubt. You were not born to spend your energy convincing people. You were born to become something so undeniable that even those who hated you have to admit, you rose anyway. And that rise will not come through shouting. It will not come through debates. It will come through dedication, through patience, through work done in secret, through long nights and quiet mornings when no one clapped, but you kept building anyway, and that is why you will win. Not because you talked the loudest, but because you walked the strongest. Because while others were wasting time throwing words, you were building a life no word could tear down. And that is the kind of victory that doesn't need to be announced. It arrives, it stands, it speaks for itself. Let your life talk. Let your progress shout. Let your destiny make the final statement. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can ever say is nothing.